Okay, so สวัสดีค่ะ Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today at the Thailand session of the Ipsos Global Trends 2023 webinar. In this Thailand-specific webinar, our experts from Ipsos Thailand will share key insights and takeaways from Ipsos's largest study ever, the Ipsos Global Trends 2023. And towards the end of today's session, we'll have a Q&A, so please feel free to leave your questions in the questions box. And our speakers today will be Kun Viraj Jitani, our Chief Client Officer, Kun Jamie Duncan, our Country Service Line Leader from IUU, Kun Pimthai Sonasuk, our Senior Client Officer. And now I'll leave the floor to them to guide you through this insightful session. Over to you, Kun Pimthai.
Thank you, Kun Ice. The agenda for today will be split into 3 parts. So I will be taking you through to our Ipsos Global Trends and the background and its context. Then I'll pass over to Kun Viraj and Kun Jamie. They will share with you the key findings, and then we will close out the session with Q&A. So as we enter 2023, we would like to say that we are entering a new world disorder. What do we mean by that? Basically, we are living in a world of crises. Not just one crisis, but multiple crises happening at the same time. So from COVID-19 to the war in Ukraine, to global financial issues around inflation, leading to energy crisis in Europe, and leading to climate extremism in some places. So basically, we are living in what economists are calling a polycrisis, where all kinds of issues are impacting us all as businesses, governments, and human beings. We have already seen some emerging sense of anxiety towards the end of 2022 among Thai consumers, especially on economic situation. As you can see, almost half of those we've spoken to feel that they are just getting by financially, compared to only 34% within APAC. And almost 1 in 3 said that they found the current financial situation difficult compared to 22% within APAC. And there is a general pessimism in their outlook overall. Less than half felt that things are moving in the right direction in this country. So even before we rang in 2023, there is already a sense of anxiety and pessimism among many Thai consumers already. So how do we make sense of all this? The crisis that we are facing as citizens, consumers, governments, and businesses are not going away anytime soon. It will require all of us to play a role to find a solution. But what are some of the solutions that we can create together? At Ipsos, it is our job to understand these issues through the human lens. And that's why today, we will be talking about what concerns Thai the most and to help you navigate this new world order. This year, our Ipsos Global Trends is the most ambitious survey that we have ever taken. We've spoken to over 48,000 people across the world, covering 50 markets, 70% of the global population, and nearly 9 in 10 of the global economy. To help us identify these trends, we have been using Ipsos' theory of change. It basically covers 3 broad areas of change from the macro forces, which are the big issues that are impacting us all across the world. They are sort of like the environment we live in. At the far right of our theory of change, we have signals. These are real-world expressions of how change is playing on the ground in the local markets. And in this edition of Global Trends, we bring signals from the 50 markets that we've looked at in the survey. In the middle of our theory of change is really the heart of how we look at human beings. These are the attitudes, values, opinions that we've been tracking since 2013 to help us understand how people are being impacted by the macro forces that are happening, and also the signals of change that are happening on the ground. And it's from this analysis that we bring you today's report. At a glance, there are 12 global trends ranging from tensions within the climate emergency to global economy, to big tech and data, globalization, healthcare, as well as things like nostalgia and the need for simplicity in our lives. And then we look at how these impact us as people. The polycrisis isn't just a concern for economists, but a very real and severe collection of pressures on the lives of ordinary people. Whether you are a policymaker or a commercial organization, it is absolutely crucial that you understand these 3 points. 1, how it is changing people's lives, their attitudes and values, whether it is a long-term thing or a short-term change. 2, the key trends within Thailand and how we stack up against the rest of APAC. And finally, how these trends are prompting organizations to change and to innovate new products or new services to meet new demands. Already, we are seeing polycrisis affecting most Thais' attitudes towards life. Where before there is a sense of relaxation, taking things as they come, or what we like to say, sabai attitude, now many Thais are actually saying that they wish they could slow down the pace of their lives and that they wish things could be simpler. Even Gen Z, the generation that grew up with internet and technology, now feel that all of this technological progress have a negative effect on their lives. So right away, we do see that polycrises are having an effect on Thais' mental attitudes and also some of the attitudes that we do not think that we would see in our lifetime. Yeah. When we look deeper into the data, we found 4 emerging trends that Thai consumers are most concerned about: economy and inflation, climate change, they worry about corruption, political scandal, and finally, poverty and inequality, as well as moral decline within the society. For the next session, we will be addressing these concerns as well as opportunities for both local and global brands to play a role in driving changes or bridging the divide gap. So I'll hand it over to Kun Viraj, and he will take you through the most urgent concern amongst Thais. What's hitting the wallet?
Thank you very much, Pintai. As we have seen, there are a variety of concerns among Thai people. The first theme I would like to talk about is the impact of this economic crisis. We are more or less out of COVID-induced stress, which all the economies faced in Southeast Asia. The economic outlook looks positive, with inflation being in control. So beyond these macro indicators, let's understand how people are feeling when it comes to realities on the ground. When you ask Thais, and it seems you get a similar picture. Only 3 in 10 in Thailand are feeling the financial strain. But Thailand is the highest among Southeast Asia economies. And we know from experience that some of the effects of the multiple crises that we are observing take some time to show its real effects on the ground and on consumer wallets. And part of the story is this lag effect. We've tracked this over the years, and it always seems that impact on ordinary people does lag behind economic indicators or macroeconomic indicators. Take an example, wage rises in the event of inflation. In most countries, it does lag the first advent of inflation, and therefore what we do see is it will depress disposable incomes as most consumers, for most consumers as time goes by. And it's also very revealing that while 50% of Thais indicate a concern about inflation, nearly as many are already seeing that impact on their disposable income. More so, 2/3 are of the opinion that on the ground inflation will rise over the next 12 months and have a cascading impact on unemployment, for example, or energy bills. So it would be prudent to take note that all is not well and the worst is perhaps yet to come. And as brands that serve these individuals, we would be wise to start budgeting for some kind of reaction further down the line with an objective of offering meaningful assistance to consumers during these economically uncertain times. Because we are seeing that consumers are making choices to address this concern, be it the rise in preference for local brands to address the perceived price advantage that local brands offer, or turning to e-commerce for deals and promotions. And we will see this play out even more in days to come, especially among consumer good categories. And with every crisis, there is plenty of examples of brands coming up with innovative solutions to address this cost of living concern. Here are a couple of examples from around the world. Earlier this year, Aldi, a supermarket in the UK, launched a brand new service to help UK customers save money. They offer customers access to a wide range of hints, tips, and hacks, as well as budget-friendly recipes, money-saving special buy items that are designed to help people cut costs with new arrivals coming every Thursday and Sunday. There's another example from another part of the world, which is Egypt, where a startup called Bekia has developed a digital platform to collect household waste, plastic bottles, and other waste for people in exchange for cash, which is delivered via the e-wallet. Closer home, Best Express, which operates in the logistics industry, decided to enlist anyone with a vehicle to join and deliver parcels for Best Express. While this helps the business manage the volume of parcels, it also provides an income stream for many of them who had lost their jobs during the COVID crisis. Lotus, for example, organized a major product discount campaign by collaborating with 40 CEOs. It's a great example of companies coming together. So 40 CEOs from well-known consumer good companies were offering reduced prices to the extent of 50% on 400 items which were being retailed in the store. And this campaign ran for 2 months. So these are great examples of helping out consumers during a financially burdened time. Moving on, while finances have been the center stage for many Thais, let's look at what has transpired on the climate change front. It is a crisis that we increasingly recognize, but one whose solution remains difficult to grasp, irrespective of whether you are an individual, a corporation, or a policymaker. And the science is becoming all too certain to ignore. A recent UN Environment Agency report said that there is no credible pathway to the 1.5 degrees target that has been put into place. And they further concluded that the pledges aren't enough. And more worryingly, the progress towards meeting these targets has been woefully inadequate. So in light of that, what do people think about the climate emergency? Globally, when we look at the climate concern among the public, we see firstly a very strong shared global concern. 8 in 10 people around the world agree that we are heading for an environmental disaster unless we change our habits quickly. But there's also been a year-on-year decline across the globe. In Thailand, we witnessed a 9% drop in climate concern compared to 1 year ago. While in absolute terms, 86% is a high number, the question to ponder is if people have become tired by the spread of negative climate stories, or maybe it's other issues such that what we've heard, such as the global cost of living concern or inflation, which are more pressing at the moment. Or perhaps there is a disillusionment with so much talk, but not enough meaningful actions. Whatever the reasons for this drop, action is needed to keep our collective concern high. And if I may suggest, even an opportunity for companies to be at the forefront of driving meaningful climate action. Because the people that companies seek to serve say so. In Thailand, 3 times more people suggest it's important for companies to care for the environment rather than pay accurate taxes. Now, it's not to suggest that paying taxes is not important, but it just gives you a sentiment on where people want companies to focus more on. And environment is right there on top of the agenda. Because the issues facing Thais are real. Here are some conversations from social media about the pollution issue that we've all recently faced living in Thailand, especially in Bangkok and northern Thailand, and the expectations that people have from governments to address this issue. And there is a need to build trust around some of these climate concerns, because today there is some skepticism around the world, around Thailand on environmental issues, in that it is paid media and necessarily not as authentic as it is made out to be, or the true intent of certain ecological projects. Now, it's not to say that these initiatives are not sincere, but in light of the prevailing skepticism, there is more that can be done to enhance the public's confidence in such initiatives and earn their trust. Here we see some Thai examples where a brand of water is taking home the mantra of environmental sustainability with label-less bottles, which are made out of 100% recyclable materials and are furthermore 100% recyclable. Or SCG Group, which is labeling environmental friendly products to facilitate consumers to make a much more informed choice. So given what's happening on the economic front and the climate concern, the big question is, what roles do companies and brands have to play? More importantly, is that an expectation from people, and why so? Let's begin by answering the why first. Societies are in a state of flux, and this is more than just anecdotal. The Carnegie Endowment for International Peace has been running a protest tracker since 2017. And since then, there have been 400 significant anti-government protests around the world. 132 countries have experienced significant protests. And bringing it all back, the polycrisis that we heard about is manifesting in people being vocal about a variety of issues concerning them and the nature of governance in the country. In fact, some of the topics being raised were previously not considered appropriate for public discussion or discourse. And this is not just an issue for activists and protesters. Ordinary people too are expressing their concern with the administration or the state of affairs. 80% of Thais from our Ipsos Global Trend reports are worried that government and public services may not be able to look after them in the future. That's substantially higher than what we've observed in Asia Pacific. Only a third of Thai people think that their national government or institutions are good at planning for the long term, which is 10 years into the future. And we all know that it can be a lonely battle if people have to figure it out all on their own. Given this lack of confidence, do businesses have an opportunity to step in? And are people really open to that? The answer is a resounding yes. 4 out of 5 Thais say that companies and brands can make money and support causes which do good for the country. 7 out of 10 say they are willing to go even further, which is paying more for brands that act responsibly. Now, ESG has been a talking point, and this consumer sentiment is a strong endorsement that there has never been a better time for corporations and business to be more vocal and visible about the initiatives that they're doing in this space. And that brings us to a very key point about aligning values between brands and people. People feel that they need support and that they aren't getting it necessarily from the institutions in the market, or there's limited that the institutions can do. And at the same time, the number of people who want brands to play a role in supporting social issues and causes and standing for the same values that they themselves have has been rising steadily over the past decade. However, we do need to recognize that all consumers don't have the same priorities. Compared to the global average, 1 in 4 Thais are not really fussed or bothered about brand purpose. And it is not all categories even, or sectors, that people seek the alignment of values. The key ones that people do seek: health and pharma, food and drink manufacturers, and social media companies. There is a much greater expectations that what brands do and what they stand for aligns with what individual values are, and rather than merely selling products. Contrast that with sectors such as household products, alcohol, confectionery. There is much less of an expectation. And the key lesson here is, yes, you do think about how you can support people through these difficult times, but before you do so, do make sure that you're offering brilliant basics. All the purpose in the world won't be much worth if you don't have the product basics right. And in these difficult times, some of the most basic ways that you can demonstrate empathy is by making your products as affordable as possible. And on the topic of empathy, it's beyond the alignment of values. At Ipsos, through the work we have done in helping brand connect with causes, we have evidence that empathy, which is association with causes alone, only takes you so far. What really makes an impact is walking the talk. When people can tangibly see how brand is playing an active role in addressing the problem, or for that matter, taking a step further and involving people in some of these causes, goes a long way in building the kind of resonance. And we have some examples here from Thailand, which should help bring this back to life. King Power Thai Power, the power of Thai people, is an initiative which focuses on three main aspects: sports, music, and community, which includes building football and training facilities for public use, collaboration with College of Music Mahidol, a university, to inspire and promote Thai talent in music. And for the community, bringing people together, the campaign also seeks to get the Thai people involved in supporting local hospitals. On the other hand, we have Cafe Amazon, where there are outlets which are hiring specially abled individuals, elderly or injured veterans under the PTT Amazon for Chance project. And we have seen that initiatives which again involve general public to be part of something meaningful goes a long way in creating long-term resonance with the brand. So we hope that some of the concerns we've shared and the behavior trends which people have shared provides an insight into what you as a company can plan for in the coming months and years. I would now like to invite Jamie Duncan to share an interesting perspective about Thai people's view on globalization and how can we harmonize it with Thai values. Over to you, Jamie.
Thanks a lot, Viraj. And building on your insightful remarks, I'm now going to shift the focus to the growing complexity and interplay between globalization and local values in Thailand. As globalization continues to permeate various aspects of our lives, it has become a topic of an intense discussion and debate, particularly in political and commercial circles. The pandemic in many ways actually put the brakes on globalization, but the idea itself is speculated to have peaked even pre-pandemic. But the impacts and influence of globalization won't fade quickly. So given the ongoing changes, it's natural to wonder how Thai citizens perceive globalization today. Do they embrace it as an opportunity to further enhance the country's economic growth, or do they fear the potential erosion of cultural values? There is a strong recognition among the Thai population today that globalization has been and is good for the country. The increased opportunities for trade and investment, transfer of knowledge and technology, and cultural exchange have all contributed to Thailand's progress and success in the global arena. When we delve deeper into the data, it becomes evident that there are contrasting opinions about globalization across the different generations. Specifically, while Gen X is more likely to view globalization as beneficial for the country, Gen Z tends to be less inclined to agree with this perspective. And it seems that people's perceptions of the impact of globalization on the country also affects their views on how it affects them personally. While a smaller proportion of Thais believe that globalization is good for me, the generational gap observed in the previous slide is also evident in this context. The data suggests that Gen Zs may not be able to clearly connect the dots between the impact of globalization on Thailand and its impact on them personally compared to their older counterparts. And indeed, globalization's impact is far from universal. While it has facilitated greater interconnectedness and cultural exchange, it has also challenged traditional notions of nationalism and patriotism, causing individuals to question their sense of self and place in the world. As Thai people engage with the world, their identities become more complex, and they may feel a greater sense of belonging to the global community than just their own country. This is reflected in the fact that 2/3 of the Thai population today feel more like a citizen of the world than a citizen of their own country. And sometimes outside influences don't always create the greatest dynamic at home. And as our values change and evolve, we end up being pushed apart instead of coming together. The resulting tension is becoming easier to see and harder to ignore. The vast majority of Thais agree that there is more and more conflict between people who don't share the same values, with a staggering 9 in 10 baby boomers agreeing with that statement compared to just 3/4 of Gen Zs. And while most people are taking notice of this value-based conflict, there is a recognition that something else very human is happening. We all care about how others see us and the opinions that they have of us. But can we be too sensitive? In Thailand today, there is agreement that people may be too easily offended by other people's opinions. We see once again this sentiment is strongest among baby boomers, while Gen Zs are the least likely to agree. So what might be influencing some of these value frictions and sensitivities? Well, to begin, some people are questioning where they fit. Today, nearly half of adult Thais would tell you that they feel like a stranger in their own country, with younger generations agreeing at higher levels than older generations. Is this a symptom of globalization, of challenged values and sensitivities, or simply the realities of generational differences regardless of time and place? Perhaps it's a combination of all three, but it's important to note that regardless of age, there are an awful lot of Thai people today not always feeling completely connected to the communities and the people around them. So if you're a younger Thai and you are more likely to agree that you feel like a stranger in your own country, it's perhaps no surprise that your sense of national pride is also impacted. Today, just 2/3 of Thai Gen Zs agree that they feel proud of their country, 19 percentage points lower than Thai Gen X. This weaker sense of connection to their country poses a potential long-term challenge. If we are less connected to the country we come from, are we more likely to seek opportunities and live somewhere else? Or again, is this a temporary state of mind that evolves with time and life experience? Regardless, in the short term, this weaker sense of national connection has implications for both institutions and brands alike. And while technology also plays a huge role in making people feel connected to the rest of the world, we are starting to see people questioning whether that is truly a good or bad thing. Today, a small majority of Thais say that they fear that technical progress is destroying their lives, and that sentiment is pretty universal across 3 of our 4 generational breaks. Baby boomers, however, are the least likely to agree with that statement. But there is as much we are united on than just divided on. Perhaps linked in part to the negative impact people believe technology is having on our lives, there is a strong sense across all of the generations that people need to spend time alone. Even among our most tech-centric Gen Zs, 2/3 agree that they need that solo time to find balance and to recharge. There is also a shared sentiment that the world is changing at an increasingly rapid pace, and many people wish they could slow down the pace of their lives. The fast-paced nature of modern life can be overwhelming. It can be challenging to find the time to slow down, reflect, and enjoy the present moment. And as the numbers show, there is general consensus regardless of age or life stage. For Thais, resilience is considered a virtue and an essential quality that enables individuals and communities to overcome adversity and challenges. In the face of challenges, Thais have demonstrated remarkable resilience and is one of the many reasons why it is so highly regarded on the global stage. This forward-looking mindset has also contributed to a strong sense of optimism, particularly when it comes to themselves and their families. Despite the many global challenges and uncertainties ahead, many Thais remain optimistic about the future and that of their loved ones, while the outlook about the world in general is slightly more guarded. This optimism is once again shared across all generations. And while we have seen over the last few slides the tensions of values, we've also seen that there's much that still connects and brings Thai people together. So what does this mean for brands going forward? It's important to acknowledge and accept the divergent points of view across generations, but it also presents an interesting challenge for marketers. Can and should brands try to bridge some of the divide? In Thailand today, there are examples of brands stepping into this bridging role. The first example on the left is from Rosa, who organized a campaign centered on family relationships and home-cooked meals as a common ground for bringing people together. The second example on the right is from Sunsilk, that took on telling the story of a transgender woman who overcame an array of barriers and obstacles and ultimately strengthened the relationship with her dad. These are just 2 examples of many that showcase how brands can find common ground and connect across the generations. It will be interesting to see in future examples of the approach taken by Thai brands as they navigate these societal complexities in our future Ipsos Global Trends presentations. So I'd now like to invite Kumpimtai and Raj back online as we make some final observations for you today. So it's clear that we are in a complex and fast-changing world with a multitude of serious challenges. A polycrisis demands a multifaceted response. It's not one crisis, but many interlocking ones. The whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And the polycrisis is creating polyvalues. There is lots of global common ground. After years of relative stasis, it's clear that we are now seeing a change in values. But country still matters a lot. It's important to remember local issues and the nuances that they bring and how we approach connecting people. The power of nostalgia, social equalities continuing to be a concern, that there are many things that divide us, but also many things that unite us. And we must avoid the generational blind spots and acknowledge the realities of these differences in values. The polycrisis demands poly solutions. We are all in this together. Brands, governments, individuals will all need to work together to address them. And a view of the future is critical for all. Thank you for your time today, and we welcome any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you, everyone. So we have a couple of questions here. The first one would be that the data shows that more than half of the people is willing to pay premium price if they believe brand's value is aligned with theirs. Does this apply to sustainability as well?
So I could take this. There is evidence. And given everything that's happening, that we observe from the global trends, yes, it's important first and foremost to do the basics right. So, given the current situation, consumers have expressed a desire to pay a premium for brands which are aligning to values, and these values are necessarily not just personal values. It also is about causes. So, CSR initiatives or anything that we're talking about, sustainability or ESG related initiatives, they do have a role to play. But the brand as such has to deliver the basic functions first. And once those are met, consumer will look for other means of making the choices, and participation or active involvement of brands in initiatives beyond just purely the benefits that the product offers, such as sustainability, will go a long way in creating the differentiation and the choice for the relevant brands in the market. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Viraj. And another one, the last question would be, do we see positive momentum for local brands to grow?
I guess I'll take this one as the only local speaker in this webinar. Yes, I think that even especially during COVID-19 times, when we are seeing more people are shopping online, we do see a lot of small local brands are coming into the market. And as we are entering inflation, some consumers are also feeling the pinch in their wallets. So they are more receptive to switching away from a more premium global brands and are actually embracing more local brands. We do see this more so in FMCG, but also we are also seeing some trends in even clothing line as well. But I think that the most important part is also that it's not just about selling products for product's sake. I think just echoing to what Viraj is presenting, it's also about how do local brands make their benefits resonate with the local people as well. Are you just out there selling products, or are you actually building empathy, or are you giving back to the community? And I think that's the latter would be the key to strengthen consumers' relationship with the brand.
Thank you very much, Ka, Khun Thai. Okay, so I guess we are okay with the questions now. If there are any more questions, you feel free to reach us after the webinar. Oops.
Perfect. And so today's presentation covered just a small portion of the fascinating insights that we have in our full Global Trends report. So you can visit ipsosglobaltrends.com to download the full report. And we encourage you to reach out to us here in Thailand at the email address on the screen if you have any questions about the specific Thailand-focused topics that we covered today. So thank you again for sharing your time with us, and we look forward to being in touch with you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.